Live. We are live. Oh boy. Good afternoon, Friday afternoon. It's 2:32 p.m. here at the Courier-Record newspaper here in Blackstone, Virginia. As promised, we're doing some YouTube lives, and you may notice a little different decor in the background. Oh, wait a minute. Forgot something. I forgot something. I have to let everybody know we're live with that big sign that staff gave me recently. I can't remember if that was birthday or Christmas. The months go by together. You see some folks you recognize on the wall. The pictures will change, but boy, last night's 3-2 solar vote by the Nottoway Board of Supervisors was on a siting agreement. The siting agreement would allow Nottoway County to receive up to $8 million basically up front if the project is 100 megawatts, and over the course of the life of the project receive $2.25 extra $1 million, or $10.25 million. It was discovered last night. It was after the board voted 3-2. Two provisions are that the setback requirement, the ordinance of Nottoway requires, I think, 300 feet from setbacks, but the ordinance allows exceptions on a case-by-case basis. This proposed project, it would have 75-foot right-of-ways instead of 300-foot right-of-ways, setbacks from roads and adjoining property lines. So 75 feet instead of 300 feet. The Nottoway County solar ordinance also requires a minimum setback of 1,200 feet from an occupied dwelling, a home where people live. The wording in the agreement last night said that Ampliform, the solar company, would be able to locate solar panels less than 1,200 acres from an occupied home. Some folks said that was a typo. Other folks have said, no, that's not the typo. That's the impression Ampliform was given. Now, what's the deal with that? I was told today by an attorney very familiar with solar projects that if you prohibit panels within 1,200 feet of a home, that if you were to draw a compass and measure 1,200 feet in a circle around that home, you would tie up 300 acres with no solar panels. So that would make the 100 megawatt project much smaller. Therefore, or smaller. I don't know how much smaller. I don't know if they could do a provision of, unless a homeowner signs a waiver, a resident signs a waiver. I don't know. They had a 3-2 vote, but it's far from over. And let me tell you something else that happened last night. It's hard to watch these meetings, but that's what we do. It's what we're supposed to do. So we can condense it for you. Supervisor Daphne Norton, who was a surprise no vote last night, she said at the end of the meeting on the YouTube video that she had a letter from the town of Crew with no position on the project, but she also said she defended her vote because, obviously the town of Crew water supply is fed by Lazaretta Creek, which is one of the creeks that's in the project area. It's a 1,300 acre project area. I think Supervisor Dickie Ingram said there's 276 neighboring properties. It's Mallory Hill Road, it's Rocky Ford Road, it's Robertson Siding Road, and there's 4 roads and 3 streams. Supervisor Norton said last night that she plans to take Bill Collins. Bill Collins is the chairman of the board who broke the tie last night. They're going to do, quote unquote, some visiting. Supervisor Norton says she wants Supervisor Collins to see the signs and to see the area. There's a lot of signs of opposition out there. What Supervisor Ingram said, and also just how rural that part of the county is. It is one of probably the most rural part of Nottoway County. Now, Bill Collins, Supervisor Collins, a District 5 rep from Blackstone, he'll tell you, he said publicly, one of the reasons he ran for office, I think he said this in his first year, was to prevent industrial solar coming into Nottoway County like he had witnessed down in Sussex County and maybe some other counties. I think that's paraphrasing. I feel like I'm accurate. If that is wrong, Supervisor Collins, I will gladly correct, but I do distinctly remember that. He said last night that he's not a fan of green energy, but he's not a fan of raising taxes. And this board's first 2 years in office have seen massive tax increases. And he said this extra money, and it also, you have to listen to what people say. This extra money is going to really lighten the tax load on the courthouse, We're not talking about more funding for schools. We're not talking about paying for the animal shelter. We're not talking about the $7 million radio system. We're not talking about the $4 million HVAC for Crew Primary. And there's other issues in other school buildings. We're just talking about the courthouse. So what I'm getting at is last night was a 3-2 vote on the siting agreement. Common knowledge would suggest that if they vote to approve a siting agreement, the board's going to vote to approve the actual permit for the actual project. But will they? Because Supervisor Norton said that she and Supervisor Collins are going to, quote unquote, do some visiting. Do some visiting, she said. Go talk to people. Now, of course, they heard from people last night. I don't have my list in front of me, but there was like 7 people who spoke against. I think it was 13 who spoke for. But of those 13 that spoke for, it was about 6 or 7 that didn't actually live in Nottoway County. So you had basically, let's just call it a 7-7 split. 14 speakers showed up. It appeared, I even, had my unofficial applause meter. Everyone kind of got the same applause. There was never any enthusiastic, rah, 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 polite applause. It was a very civil hearing. Like I said earlier today, it was a very civil, well-run meeting by Chairman Collins. He allowed everyone 5 minutes. And no one complained could complain they had enough time didn't have enough time to speak. Some folks got, after 3 minutes, folks started going circular unless they've written the Gettysburg Address in long form. So we have 2 issues here, basically, to summarize this YouTube Live. It ain't over till the fat lady sings, and the board will have another hearing on the actual project. That's the real thing. What they've done last night was approve, we like the agreement, we like the dollars. But you don't get the dollars unless the permit's issued and the project's built. And that $8 million would be basically in 3 phases over the course of a year and a half. And then over the life of the project is when the county gets to collect tax revenue not to exceed $2,225,000. $8 million up front, 10.225 over the projected 40-year lifespan. Now, one attorney last night who's been helping Nottoway with this, trying to find out how much legal bills the county's been spending too on solar in this courthouse, this mysterious courthouse. Because if this project goes forward, a lot of taxpayers are going to be, there are times in our lives in Nottoway County where if you just said, hey guys, guess what? The county board of supervisors is going to get $8 million up front of new money. You'd be like, oh, wow, tax relief. No tax increases for the foreseeable future, maybe a tax reduction. No. And this is football language, and I apologize. Coach Jim Harbaugh used to tell his players in Michigan to embrace the suck. That's the part of working out in preseason where you work yourself to exhaustion. My take on this last night is this is going to reduce the level of suck. It's going to still suck. And I hate to use words like that, but that's the easiest terms I can put it in. And something that's got to be, it's time now, supervisors, lawyers, judges, people in high places, unleash the document. Unveil this mysterious building project that last night you threw $650,000 out because the contractors or the architects and engineers want to start drawing money. They want to start getting paid. That's before you broke ground. Typically, those fees, of course, that's just the first draw. So we don't know their total bill. Typically, architects and engineer fees, 15-20% of a total project cost. Let's talk about the 1840 courthouse. That's where the felonies are tried. That's where we've had some roof leaking, that sort of thing. That building can be renovated. That building was renovated in the year 2000, 1999. I remember it. I remember trials were moved to the General District Courtroom, which, by the way, General District Court in Nottoway County is Wednesdays. JDR, juvenile domestic, is Thursdays. For renovation purposes, that 1840 courthouse can be renovated and fixed so it doesn't leak, et cetera, et cetera. It can be, things can be made more secure. You can hire an additional deputy or 2. Could you add on to the left side or go up on the General District Courtroom for cheaper than, I had a lawyer today tell me, Billy, he said, Billy, y'all talking $25 million. He said, let me give you some price tags of projects that were 20 years ago. Dinwiddie, Lunenburg. They were in the $14-15 million range 25 years ago. Pre-COVID, highest construction costs for the last 6 years, 5-6 years. Yeah, 6 years. So it's, like I said, it's great like I said, take aside the solar panels. Just remove that from your thought right now, because you either don't mind solar panels or you hate solar panels. I'm just talking raw numbers. What happened last night is a potential mathematical good thing for Nottoway County. It is less a good thing if you don't offset the expenditure for the Mammoth Courthouse project, because those other expenses I mentioned, they're already on the books. The animal shelter, I mean, ribbon cutting at some point in time, that's every bit of 3 million when you throw in the fact that they paid $375,000 for the building. They're renovating it for 2.1 million or maybe less. They spent 300 some thousand dollars on architectural studies that they didn't like with RMM architects. So the animal shelter is a $3 million animal shelter with, drum roll please, 6 new dog kennels. It's gonna be nice, and it should be nice. And our dogs and cats should be kept in humane quarters. No one argues with that. The current facility is lacking. It's yesterday. It was great in 1986. Things have changed. That's 3 million. The radio system, okay, the tower system where we're seeing basic telephone poles going up to hold a repeater. That $7 million system that's going to be maybe 6 million after the grant, maybe 5 million, whatever. Okay, that's got to pay for that. And then the mini school issues. Oh, by the way, because property values have increased in Nottoway County, thank you, reassessment of 2 years ago. Because of that, the county's required local minimum, the minimum that Nottoway County has to put up by law, increases by 1.2 million or 1.1 million in a time when enrollment's declining. What is $1.2 million, Billy? That's 10 cents on your real estate tax. Your real estate tax rate in Nottoway County right now is 48 cents per hundred. What's a dime on that? That's a 20% tax increase. That's what that is. Just in operational funds for the school system, required by law. Not questioning, not criticizing. I'm just giving you a list of the financial stuff facing Nottoway County. Now, briefly, I'll touch on the solar debate. If you move out in the country, certainly you expect to live out in the country. But basically, and this is cruel, this is going to sound, I hope it doesn't sound elitist, because that's not me. But if you want to control what you look at, you almost need to own what you look at. And that means, how far, if, let's hypothetical, the solar panels look like they're probably coming to Nottoway County. If they're screened, the way this company says they'll do it, whether it's 70 feet from your property line or 300 feet, doesn't matter. Someone said last night that the solar company had offered to build them a privacy fence. And she was a very good speaker. I think it was Karen Kimbrell. I'm pretty sure it was Karen Kimbrell. And she said, I moved out in the country. I didn't want to look at privacy fences. That's stuff that people in town look at. Well, what if I move out in the country beside my neighbor? This is, not picking on Miss Kimbrell, but whoever. And I decided the first thing I want to do is build a privacy fence. Well, guess what? You're looking at a privacy fence. You may not look at one now, but if it's a privacy fence for solar panels or a privacy fence for my junk cars or a privacy fence for my underwear hanging on the clothesline, what is the difference? I just ask you that. Like I said, and yes, one of the things I said earlier today, and I emphasize it here, it is easier for people in Blackstone who are concerned about commerce to be yay pro solar when it's in the western end of the county. I fully realize that. And the reasons in the western end of the county is not because Blackstone has said no. Dominion is going to go near, these solar companies are going to go near where the Dominion transmission line is in close proximity to get this solar power on the grid. And the solar panel, you remember, Nottoway County does have a limit of 170 megawatts. I think Nottoway has approved a 30 megawatt project, a 20 megawatt project. This is 100, so we're almost reaching our cap. One could argue with the looming debt is that 170 megawatt cap that the county has arbitrarily picked. I think that's because that's the amount of energy that's currently produced in Nottoway County. Is that wise economically from the tax revenue standpoint, from the tax liability standpoint you're facing? Philosophical question. Don't know the answer. Everyone will have a different answer. It's a matter of, I think one thing Supervisor Norton said last night that is so true. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. I can relate. If I cover something, a lot of times, damned if you do, and you got one half the crowd going, yeah, it was a great story. And the other half's going, that story, I can't believe you covered that. That's called journalism, by the way. Journalism is that which certain people, entities, organizations would prefer not be seen. And while we're speaking about journalism, just one other thing to think about. School boards had some interesting debates lately. And I apply this a question to any debate that any organization's having, whether it be town council, board of supervisors. Ask yourself, when an elected official is supporting or fighting something, ask yourself this: would they campaign on that which they're arguing, whether it's against something or for something? Let's take, for example, um, something real easy: recording work sessions at the school board office. Right now, logistically, it's a challenge. And trying to record the joint meeting with the two bodies coming up on March 2nd in the mini auditorium. It sounds easy because they have the microphones there, but they have to sit at a big table in the middle of the room. It's not feasible yet. But to steadfastly oppose that, what people who were running for the school board 3 years ago said, let me tell you one damn thing. If you elect me, I'm gonna make damn sure no meetings are recorded. Would they run on that? Okay. Conversely, and I said earlier, Supervisor Collins made it clear one of the reasons he ran for office was to avoid industrial solar coming to Nottoway County. But he also was, I think, talk about political courage. He also was honest enough to say, but I don't like tax increases. And he had no idea, like a lot of folks, just how 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, if you'd have told people in Nottoway County, here's what taxes are going to be on your tax bill, the first two tax bills of this board. Oh, and guess what? It gets even better down the road, the future. Look at the future. So again, but when people pontificate, elected officials, and they're preaching against something or preaching for something, say, was that their stump speech? Was that their campaign stump speech? I just food for thought. And that's why a lot of smart politicians get elected. They say very little. They just go out, shake hands, kiss babies, and hey, you know me, I know you. That's the way it works. Been there, done that. I get it. But anyway, that is the latest. It's far from over. That is the message of this. Houston, we have a problem. The siting agreement's got some ambiguity, some good old fashioned Nottoway County lack of clarity after the 3-2 vote. Oh, okay. And you've also got a supervisor who voted no, Ms. Norton, taking a supervisor who broke the tie, Bill Collins, and they're going to do some visiting. They're going to go see some people. That tells me it's not over. So, like I said earlier today, don't ever spike a football until that clock is 0-0 and the referees have said the game's over. There's no instant replay. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to do this more. I've been preaching this, but I know how people are slow to change. A lot of people like the Facebook Lives, but you're going to see a lot more YouTube Live. Still going to do some Facebook Live, but you're going to see this transition. And so I just trying to do it gradually because I know people don't like change. We saw a lot of that last night. Change is tough. I don't like change. Anyway, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Be safe, be grateful, be happy, be the best you can be, and have a great weekend, everybody.